Today is Thursday, January 16th. We're talking about a breakthrough after 15 months of war in Gaza. Israel and Hamas have reached a deal to put fighting on hold. Also, what President Biden warned about in his farewell address. And how more of President-elect Trump's cabinet picks handled the hot seat on Capitol Hill. Plus, how the FDA is banning an ingredient often used in candy, soda, and more. Why hip-hop star Drake is suing his own record label. And what's behind one of the biggest travel trends of 2025. Those stories and even more news next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. There's new hope a devastating war in the Middle East could soon come to an end. Negotiators from Israel and Hamas agreed to pause the war in the Gaza Strip for 42 days, starting Sunday. President Biden says that will give Palestinians time to return home and receive desperately needed humanitarian supplies. Also in that time, dozens of hostages kidnapped by Hamas are expected to be released, including Americans, as well as hundreds of Palestinian prisoners who are now detained in Israel. The whole deal is similar to the framework President Biden spoke about last May. And since then, there's been months of diplomacy in an effort to end the war as it kept raging in Gaza. And then more recently, President-elect Trump threatened severe consequences unless Israel and Hamas reached an agreement before his inauguration next week. And some officials say his threats helped move negotiations along. Israeli Prime Minister thanked both Trump and Biden for their work. The ceasefire agreement still needs to be formally ratified in Israel. The votes are expected to happen today. Also today, mediators from the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar are getting together to talk about how to carry out the deal. So, to be continued. For the last time, President Biden addressed the nation from the Oval Office. Part of his speech was a nod to former President Eisenhower's farewell address, in which Eisenhower famously spoke about the dangers of a military-industrial complex. Biden says today the threat is coming from a tech-industrial complex. He didn't name names, but made some clear references to tech leaders like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos. As he put it, quote, "Today an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence." And Biden says if power is left unchecked, democracy could be at stake. The president also called for specific reforms in government. For example, he said there should not be hidden funding behind campaign contributions, even though traditionally a lot of that money has gone toward candidates in both parties. Biden also called for a ban on members of Congress trading stocks and for 18-year term limits for members of the U.S. Supreme Court. Plus, the president spoke about some of his own accomplishments, pointing to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, historic infrastructure investments, lower prescription drug prices, and gun safety legislation. As of this morning, no response from President-elect Trump, though some of his allies have pointed out how Biden is leaving office as one of the least popular presidents in modern history. Toward the end of his speech, Biden struck a hopeful tone, saying, quote, "America can be defined by one word, possibilities." Senators are pushing ahead with confirmation hearings interviewing President-elect Trump's picks for top cabinet positions. His Attorney General nominee, Pam Bondi, faced some of the toughest questioning yesterday. One Democrat pressed her, saying, quote, "I need to know that you would tell the president no if you are asked to do something that is wrong, illegal, or unconstitutional." To that, Bondi said it's actually the Biden administration that's weaponized the Justice Department against Trump, but that she won't be politicizing the office. There was also the confirmation hearing for Trump Secretary of State pick, Marco Rubio. He defended the importance of NATO, even though President-elect Trump has often questioned it. Rubio also was especially critical of China, saying if the U.S. doesn't make changes, quote, "virtually everything that matters to us in life will depend on whether China will allow us to have it or not." Elsewhere on Capitol Hill, lawmakers questioned the nominee for CIA Director John Ratcliffe. He said if confirmed, he would make sure the CIA is focused on intelligence gathering without biases, and that he would go on offense against cyber threats. During the hearing for Energy Secretary nominee Chris Wright, there was a lot of talk about climate change. Wright called it a real and global phenomenon, but he also stood by past comments that climate change is not a pressing concern. Instead, he said the top priority should be strengthening the nation's electrical grid. Bondi, Ratcliffe, Rubio, and Wright are all expected to get confirmed, and some may even get a few Democratic votes. There are now still more contentious hearings ahead. The intense winds that have fanned the flames in the Los Angeles area have finally started to let up. And with that, firefighters have been able to make huge progress against the wildfires that have been burning for more than a week now, leveling entire neighborhoods to just ash and rubble. But fire crews are also up against some new challenges. For example, authorities have arrested about half a dozen people for setting new small fires that were quickly extinguished. Investigators still don't know for sure what caused the two largest fires that have burned through thousands of homes and killed at least 25 people. But they're still investigating, as fire crews are expected to make even more headway over the next few days. The National Weather Service says there should not be as many fire weather concerns through the rest of this week, but they could be back by next week. In the meantime, officials are asking people in Southern California to stay vigilant and be prepared to evacuate at a moment's notice. All right, we have more news for you still coming up. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsor. We talk about these things right here on the show quite often: identity theft, unwanted spam calls, hacks, and more. The reality is a lot of personal information is on the web, probably more than you think. Your name, contact info, social security number, home address, and more can all be compiled by data brokers and sold online. Data brokers are legal. They make a profit off your data. But when they sell your info, that can ultimately lead to more unwanted spam calls or worse. So Delete Me can help protect your privacy. I now use this subscription service. I simply gave them my info, and then they do the hours of hard work for me, literally reviewing hundreds of data brokers and removing my personal info as needed. Delete Me sends me regular personalized privacy reports showing what they found, where they found it, and what they removed. And it's not just a one-time thing either. Delete Me is always working for you, constantly removing the personal info you don't want on the internet. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, you can get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting Newsworthy to 64,000. Text Newsworthy to 64000. Again, text the word Newsworthy to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Now back to the news. A common red dye used in thousands of foods is getting banned nationwide. For decades, there's been talk about health concerns surrounding red dye number 3. It's long been banned in the European Union and some other countries. And for over a year, it's been banned in California. But the FDA is acting on a federal level now because of a new petition that pointed to a long-standing federal rule. It says the FDA cannot approve any food additives that cause cancer in humans or animals. And even though there's no evidence to suggest red dye number 3 causes cancer in humans, it was found to cause cancer in rats. Moving forward, companies will have until 2027 to reformulate their products. Imported products will also have to stop using the ingredient. Supporters say they don't expect any products to actually be removed from U.S. supermarkets since alternative dyes are readily available. And they don't expect the price of foods to go up. One critic of the new rule is a group representing color manufacturers. It says Red 3 is safe for human consumption, and that should be enough. For now, the Environmental Working Group says the dye is found in almost 3,000 products, like store-bought baked goods, candies, certain brands of mashed potatoes, breakfast cereals, beverages, and more. 2 more airlines are getting punished for flight delays. The U.S. Transportation Department sued Southwest Airlines, accusing the carrier of selling flights with unrealistic schedules that were chronically late. The suit specifically points to 2 routes, saying over a 5-month period in 2022, they were more than 30 minutes late more than half of the time. Southwest said it was disappointed by this lawsuit and added that its performance over 15 years shows it doesn't operate on an unrealistic schedule. So it's fighting the lawsuit in court. If it loses that fight, it could have to pay up to $2.2 million. The DOT also announced Frontier Airlines will have to pay a $650,000 fine for similar reasons. Frontier has not responded yet. Remember, the DOT also fined JetBlue $2 million for operating late flights. At this point, it hasn't said why JetBlue and Frontier are facing fines, while Southwest is facing an entire lawsuit. Drake is suing his own record label for defamation. It's over a high-profile beef between him and Kendrick Lamar that made headlines last year and went viral on social media. The Canadian rapper filed a lawsuit against Universal Music Group, or UMG, which actually represents both Drake and Kendrick. Drake says UMG threatened his life and livelihood by promoting Kendrick's diss track, Not Like Us, which includes accusations of Drake being a pedophile. In the lawsuit, Drake says he experienced months of hate and even had to pull his child out of school all over what he calls lies. Drake also blamed the label for 3 attempted invasions at his Toronto home, including one that ended with his security guard getting shot. He points out how the cover art for Kendrick Lamar's single features an overhead shot of Drake's house. Now the lawsuit seeks damages from UMG. In response, the label says it's not true that it defamed Drake on purpose by promoting Kendrick's. It also says the suit was illogical, since the company has invested a good deal of time and money into promoting Drake's career too, even when he has expressed thoughts about other artists. So this one may end up being fought in court. Sex and the City fans, no more visiting Carrie Bradshaw's famous brownstone in New York City. For decades now, there has been a steady stream of tourists and sightseers since the show just keeps being popular. And now the owner of the building has had enough. This week, she got permission to put a gate in front of the steps. She said it was necessary, with people stopping at all hours to hang out and take pictures on the steps, and some even climbing up to the windows. Now the owner's architect will work with the city's commission on a gate design that fits with the neighborhood's aesthetic. That said, fans will still be welcome to take pictures, but they have to do it from the street. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. Who wants to start the new year fresh? As in, smelling really fresh. Lumi's whole body deodorant has you covered. Well, it doesn't just cover odor, like some other deodorants. Instead, Lumi is powered by mandelic acid to deliver impressive 72-hour odor control. Yep, it's even clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. It's really the best thing to have in your bag in 2025. I'm especially a fan of Lumi's stick deodorant for the morning, and the deodorant wipes are perfect for travel or anytime you're on the go. It's the perfect transition from the gym to work or from work to an evening happy hour. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers, too. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash that I love, and deodorant wipes, like I mentioned, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine that 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, well, that equals over 40% off their starter pack. So use code NEWSWORTHY for 15% off your first purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's code NEWSWORTHY at LUMEDEODORANT.com. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Lumi. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. More Americans are embracing solo travel, finding new joy in taking trips alone. Over the last 10 years, Google searches for solo travel have jumped 223%. And a new report from Kayak and OpenTable found half of Americans plan to travel alone this year. It's apparently especially trendy for young travelers. The American Express Global Travel Trends report says 76% of millennials and Gen Zers are planning solo trips in 2025. And across all age groups, women account for the most solo bookings. The Travel Trends report explains why, saying a solo trip is ideal for deep relaxation, developing a new interest, or meeting new people. They are also a lot easier to plan without compromising. So where's the best place to go it alone? Well, TripAdvisor's Traveler's Choice Awards actually has a new category on the world's top solo destinations. And this year, number 1 on the list is Seoul, South Korea. Or if you want to stay in the U.S., Kayak and OpenTable have a similar ranking for American cities, and it puts Washington, D.C. as number 1. Well, thank you so much for listening today and making us part of your daily routine. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.